Dear friends, we also want to congratulate and show our appreciation to those organizations, to those...
Is it on?
Better?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's closer, not off. We also want to congratulate and show our appreciation to those involved in the organization of this conference, especially Intal and our friends from the World Peace Council. And
Moara, take this. Sorry.
The hand moves away from my mouth. We greet all our friends invited participating in this initiative. The Brazilian Center for Solidarity with the Peoples and Struggle for Peace joins you all, the peace-loving forces, in committing to deepen, broaden, and strengthen the struggle against the militarization of the planet, promoted by the warmongering forces, namely the US and NATO allies. We share our friends' view that NATO is the armed wing of imperialism and threatens the whole world, and for that it must be dissolved. The fact that we draw attention to the extension of NATO's destructive influence to stress its presence and workings in Latin America is telling of the lengths to which this war machine goes in attempting to impose its power all over the planet. In solidarity with all peoples harmed, massacred, or threatened, whose countries were destroyed and sovereignty violated, from Yugoslavia to Libya, Afghanistan to Somalia, Sudan, and so on, CEBRAPAZ joins all who denounce the pretexts invented by the imperialist and hegemonic powers, such as the promotion of security, even if under the conceptual development of a so-called human security, and humanitarian intervention, with the so-called responsibility to protect or humanitarian assistance, often presented as per request of some government or governmental organization, which is supposed to paint devastating military operations, intervention, and offensive presence with a layer of legitimacy. In Latin America and the Caribbean, we also face the growing threats of imperialist military presence, a region in which the peoples have worked and struggled for progressive change that would transform the social landscape. A region and continent maimed by colonialism, neocolonialism, and imperialism, which were able to gain roots in our economic, political, and social systems through our reactionary elites' collusion with their foreign bosses. From the support to military coup d'etat to outright military, political, and economic interference, US policies have always regarded Latin America and the Caribbean as their backyard, as we all know, and went to great lengths to keep controlling the region, whatever the costs. In the 21st century, the tactics may vary, but the strategy is the same. And again, we suffer from interferences and the alliance of the regional elites willing to sell out our sovereignty, resources, and rights. In Honduras, Paraguay, Brazil, the coup d'etat were effective, and we continue guarding against the attempts in Bolivarian Venezuela, Bolivia, and Ecuador, and aiming to recover control over their people's future and prevent its emancipation, not without resistance. It is in this context that we have been denouncing the foreign military bases, which are over 80 in the region, among over 1,000 all over the globe. Brazil is surrounded by dozens of military bases set in our neighbors Colombia and Peru, and our border with Paraguay and Argentina is next, thanks to Mauricio Macri's agreement with the United States for 2 new bases. In Brazil itself, an illegitimate government, which is already in ruins, tries to negotiate a strategic base with the United States. Moreover, we have been denouncing the US Fourth Fleet and its Southern Command, reaffirming what we all know, that the people's resources are among the main points in the powers' calculation for their policies. As if it were not too much already, an illegitimate government in Brazil has invited the United States for a joint military drill with Colombia and Peru in the Amazon forest, due to November, under the pretense of fighting transnational crime, drug trafficking, and even terrorism, which we know to target especially insurgent movements. This is outrageous, and we have started mobilization against these plans, especially in the chaotic scenario that the reactionary elites, the media, part of the parliament, and part of the judiciary have thrown Brazil into. In 2016, Colombia's government has already invited NATO to help fight organized crime, supposedly, Although we are well aware of the intentions and performances of foreign, especially US interference in the region with that same pretext. But these are not facts isolated from history. Since the 1950s, the US has assembled military commands to focus on Central and South America, although only in 1963 was the Southern Command defined as such. And these were periods of intensified activity among the coup promoters in the region, which saw proliferation of brutal military regimes with already demonstrated links to US officials and policy. Among the approximately 80 foreign military bases in Latin America and the Caribbean, many are or can be used by NATO. One that can be pointed out is the United Kingdom's base in the Malvina Islands, which are usurped by the UK from the Argentinian people. It is kept there to deter Argentine from reclaiming it and to play a part in a threat and control policy for the region. Although some experts and leaders were invited for NATO seminars and press conferences and insisted on saying that NATO does not have a role in Latin America because the US has good partners in the region and they can count on interventionist organization of American states to promote security and democracy, we know that all these machineries are interconnected. Still, as pointed out by many, the increase in US and foreign military presence in Latin America and the Caribbean is part of NATO's efforts of going and keeping global. In our region, it is linked to the new colonial policies promoted by the very same NATO members through other fronts, despite strong resistance from regional democratic progressive forces promoting sovereignty through UNASUR and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC for instance, a progressive change based on the defense of ours as a zone of peace, which also dared to openly promote a regional autonomous collective defense. And these are the real challenges that the imperialist and local reactionary forces collude against. In sum, as we have affirmed in the World Peace Council resolutions, campaigns and statements, as we did in the Assembly in Brazil, which CEBRAPAZ was deeply honored for hosting, our strength is in deepening and broadening our struggle against the militarization of the planet at the expense of the people's rights and the nation's sovereignty. In that, we reaffirm our commitment to the campaign Yes to Peace, No to NATO, to the dissolution of the foreign military bases, the elimination of the weapons of mass destruction, for the end of colonialism, neocolonialism, wars, aggressions, interferences, and military occupation, the promotion of coups and other mechanisms and tactics that are part of the imperialist strategy of world domination. We join you in hoping and fighting for a better world of peace and justice for all, free of exploitation, war, and domination, based on the solidarity among the peoples and nations. Thank you.